So that'll be running.
Cool. Thanks.
We aren't doing anything too graphics card intensive, so this should be fine. But any of you, actually, this would be a good introduction for you. If any of you are interested in documenting your own process when you're going through 3D modeling on the computer or whatnot, OBS is free. It's a great tool. It'll download up to 4K. Just screen recording everything you do. And then what you can do is you can take this video into Premiere when you're done with the project and create a time lapse. It's a great portfolio piece to show future people like hiring what you're capable of throughout your process. So that's why I use OBS, but it's also great for sharing my videos over YouTube with students after class. So yeah, I figured I would just start with the basics based on the example you had sent me. We're really not looking at too many complicated things as far as the video editing goes with this. The few key things I noticed, and I'll just hit play here, was that at the very beginning, of course, it fades in from a solid color. So I'll go through that process real quick with you in Premiere. And then really what you see in a lot of these higher end polished videos is between scenes, you see what's called a hard cut. So they don't get too fancy with any transitions like wipe effects or spinning video frames or bleeding between frames. You'll just see that as they're telling the story and allowing the story to unfold, it's kind of a slow camera movement, start, stop, and then hard cut to the next scene. There's no fancy transitioning going on. So I won't view this whole thing with you guys because I'm sure you've watched it quite a few times yourself. Another thing I was curious about, though, with this as the example, this is like very high quality. So they are not only mixing real life footage with the 3D model, which I imagine they 3D modeled in something like 3ds Max or Maya, Autodesk Maya. And then they're like stitching the 3D model directly into video. I'd imagine that's not what most of you guys are going to be doing. So you're focusing more on, like what Jeremy had said, cutting between what is probably your Lumion file in 3D model, hard cut to like a day in the life video. So you're not really doing 3D stitching and motion mapping and all of that. So I won't get into any of that. So yeah, that keeps things pretty simple as far as Premiere goes. I'll just show you how to import footage, do fading transitions with solid colors for your start and your end and perhaps in between scenes, and then some presets for text effects. For those who are interested in getting down the rabbit hole of like photo matching and merging realistic rendering with video, I did paste some links into the Zoom chat. One of them being, well, this one would be good for you to download anyway. 4K video downloader allows you to just take like a hyperlink from YouTube, copy, and then paste it directly into this window. Now you use this with caution because you want to make sure anything you're taking from YouTube is like creative licensed, so you can use it in your own projects. But what it'll do is it'll allow you to download MP4 files or MP3 files, so audio. And as long as it's open source, free to use, creative licensing, you can use it in your projects. And that will just download the MP4 or MP3 to your folders on your computer to use it in Premiere Pro. So that would be one thing that would be important for everyone. Second thing is if you're looking at a way to get really nice animated 3D people or models into a scene quick and easy, they have a paid version which gets kind of expensive, but check this website out. They have their own desktop service, which I've got opened up here, but it allows you to create walk paths, crowds, animated scenes, and then you essentially export all of these once you have them set as FBX, and then you can import into Lumion or Unreal Engine or whatever you might be using, 3ds Max. And then thirdly, for any audio, like the video example that was sent has some really nice audio. Typically you'll want audio that is just instrumental or like ambient type. So this is a great place to go for those things. It's artlist.io. That's the third link that I sent you guys. So beyond that, I'll get into Premiere now that you have those resources. What I've done is I've prepared just a really quick folder to just show you how I tend to organize projects like this. So this being the base folder for a project, say it's the title of your studio or what have you. And then I will typically give myself a 3D folder. So here would be my 3D model, whether that's in Blender, Revit, SketchUp, 3ds. And then a folder within there for all of your 3D exports, like FBX objects, OBJ objects, you name it, things you're going to bring into Lumion later. And then another one for final cuts or your animation or video files that you export out of Lumion before bringing it into Premiere. And then video. This is a subfolder I would keep something like my Premiere file in to begin with. So I would just file, save this as, and I will put that in my project base folder. So I'll copy that, save it there. And I have just opened an example project, but I will start a clean one with some of the content just to show you how to start building this. But this is just a quick example of a quick project that we tend to do here at JEO as well. So you'll see similar elements. If I hit play, I have a fade in from black for the beginning. And it might be very laggy over screen share, so I apologize. But I just do hard cuts between scenes. And so we'll go over that as well. And then towards the end, I fade back out to black and do some text. So we'll just go over those basics here for about 10 minutes, then I'll answer individual questions. So in that case, I'm just going to go file new project, and you can change your browse location to your project folder. So mine's my directory folder I talked about a bit ago, and I'm going to keep it in video. So I'll select that folder and hit OK. And since it's new, I'm just going to delete everything out so I can go back over this. So we'll pretend like it opened up. This is a fresh new project. A lot of you have, it sounds like, have already explored importing footage. But say you have a video footage of your day in the life. So I just downloaded quick with 4K video downloader apartment stock footage. So I'm just going to drag and drop that to import it. You can also go up to File, Import. And then apart from that, I'm going to utilize some animations I exported out of Unreal Engine for an apartment that we've been working on earlier this year. So those are the two that I'm going to kind of mix together for hard cuts. Now, out of Lumion, you might have a bunch of different scenes, and that would just look like, say you have 11 scenes exported out of Lumion, you would have like 11 video files that are animated here, and you would just want to bring them on your timeline by dragging and dropping. Same with your stock footage. You know, I've already gone ahead and downloaded some audio as well. Let's see if it made it in here. Yep. So I just downloaded this from that artlist.io that I had sent you. Looks like this. You can sort by mood, themes, genre, instrumental, you name it. But when you get a chance, check that out. Now, as far as the editing goes, I am just going to drag and drop my first animated scene directly onto the animation timeline here. The settings for me aren't going to match the clip because I started from the previous project, but I'm going to just allow it to change the sequence settings to match the video footage that I'm placing in here. So that's what I've done there. And now you'll see the animated clip that you would like export out of Unreal Engine or Lumion or Enscape or Blender, whatever 3D model and animation package you like to use. So we'll treat this as a clip, and then this the day in the life of. So what you've got vertically here in Premiere is video stacks. So this is where you will drag and drop those video clips, and then it organizes vertically in the other direction your audio stack. And if your video has attached audio to it, it will bring both in simultaneously. So that's what this is here. If I bring my mouse over this timeline and I hold the Alt button and middle mouse wheel in, you can zoom in to it to get a more detailed close-up view of the timeline. This helps with editing. And I'm going to zoom back out so I can see the full clip. So mine did have audio attached to it because I had already gone through that process. I'm going to now bring in the apartment stock footage because we'll want to mix these together. So I'll drag and drop that on my V2 timeline. And that did bring in the audio as well. But we will just allow the existing audio to be there for a moment. So notice that there is a size difference, so that's another thing you're going to want to pay attention to is your source video footage that you're bringing in. What resolution and scale is that, as opposed to what resolution and scale of animation video you exported out of Lumion. It would be ideal if you were exporting in 4K from Lumion, for example, that you find 4K in the life of, or a day in the life of video footage, so that you don't have to worry too much about mismatched ratios like this. But in that case, I can just scale this down as well to match. So let's see, that would exist. Could just downsample this too. Scale. So you can edit properties of whatever you've dragged and dropped onto the timeline. Up in the top left here, if your screen doesn't look like this, you can go to Windows, Workspaces, and they have presets here. Right now I'm just in the editing preset. So go ahead and do that if you're following this along in the recorded version in the future. But I'm going to go ahead, select my blue stem footage, and I can scale this down. So it looks like it's 50%. So now they at least match in size for my editing. But so that it fills up the window, I'm just going to go ahead and just double the size of my stock footage. So I'll select that, come in here and change the scale. So now it fills the full screen. Now with that said, one other key thing, if you're kind of just beginning in Premiere and you start to cut and paste video along the timeline, the audio is going to make it tricky. So what I mean by that is if I go ahead and cut this by bringing my cursor to the end of the video clip, this red icon shows up, click, hold, and drag to my marker, and then say I have another clip that I want to bring in, it's going to cut the audio with the video clip at the same time. So if you start rearranging the video clip that has audio and pushing and pulling, your audio might start getting messed up. And so what we'll often do is select the clip with audio, right click on that, and you can decouple the audio from the video. So I'm trying to see where that is again. Unlink is what they call it in Premiere. So if you click to that, now you can select the video separate from the audio. I'm just going to go ahead and delete out the audio. I'm going to do the same with this clip because that's not the audio I want to go ahead with. So now that my video is free of audio, I can just bring in, later on I can bring in the audio that I downloaded. So that said, I'm going to click and drag my apartment stock footage that way, and now say here's my first scene out of Lumion. I'm going to just treat that as if it's one clip so I can show you guys hard cuts between clips. So I will copy and paste that so it's side by side. So that's the entry cut, and then say later on maybe I want to jump to this panning kitchen scene, and that's the next scene I want. I'm going to cut to that clip. Lumion gives you the option of exporting just individual clips or a full video. So if you set up like 10 scenes in Lumion and then you export them all as one video file, you'll work in the same manner I'm working in, where you have one full video, but you cut clips out to rearrange them. So that's what I'm doing, is just sampling them and putting them side by side. So if we go back with the timeline, hit play, it will enter and then hard cut to the panning kitchen scene. Hard cut to there, and then black screen because I have no more clip there. So that said, if you want to use audio to kind of orchestrate your video clips, so it'd be a good time at the beginning stages of your clip session for the video to drag and drop your chosen audio into the audio 1 slot so you can start cutting according to the audio on beats. So I don't know if you guys can hear the audio or not, but my cut between video there does not match the audio very well. Typically when you're working with hard cuts, you would want to switch hard cuts to another scene on the beat of your audio. So audio, a lot of you might know more about, or some of you might know more about like music and music theory than I do, but a good rule of thumb for video clips tends to be in the 2 second, the 4 second, the 6 second, or the 8 second range, because those clip lengths kind of tend to match to music that happens in like halves, fourths, eighths, and so on. So on every like fourth beat of a given piece of audio would be a good like clip transition. So it tends to be like 4 seconds. So to match something like that up, you can use the video or the visual audio cues here. So if you start to look at this and zoom in on the beats, you can tell where the beats happen with the increase in audio volume. So like right here, when it spikes up, that would be a good place to introduce a hard cut to a new clip. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that back till it snaps to my timeline. And then that's where I will bring in my next video clip to hard cut to a new video clip at that audio spot. So I'll just extend this out so we can get to a different scene. And we'll just skip a scene so it doesn't jump right to the living room. Say I want to go from the kitchen pan to the overall living room, which sequentially doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but this is just to show you how I would go ahead and do that. So play that back, hard cut. So again, at this spike, if I have like a 2 second clip, that would be another great place to put in another hard cut. Again, you can either listen to your audio cues or see them visually on this graph here. But since this clip could be a bit longer, could wait. But that's kind of up to you and your judgment as to when you insert new clips and how you want to tell your story. And you kind of follow that same concept for hard cuts through the entire thing. There's one other basic edit that I wanted to show you, and that's the fade in and fade out for introductions and the ending of your video, and transitions in the middle. So if you just right click in your project library here, you'll get an option for a new item, and you want to come down to color matte. So I'm going to click on that, and it will ask you for a width and height in a time base. I'm going to leave it as default, and then what it will do is it will give you a color to select. So typically or traditionally, you'll either want to fade in and fade out from white or black. So I'm just going to do black, and what this is going to do is just give me a color matte solid to place above my video files. So I'll just say black color matte, and notice in the library here it's inserted a blank slide, similar to video footage. So I'm going to click and drag that onto my timeline and place it on V3, which is above my V2, A Day in the Life Of, and my V1, the animations. And since that's above the layer stack, it will hide anything below it, which is what we want, because as soon as I get to the end of this clip, you'll notice that's where my animation shows up. Now to animate the opacity of that, that's really all we're doing. So to get this property up in the left-hand window up here, you click on that, and you get into keyframing things, which most of you should be somewhat familiar with the idea of keyframing. but if not, this will be kind of an introduction. So select that, properties are shown up here. We're going to go to opacity properties, and there's a little clock icon. This is how you keyframe any given property in this program, at least, and it's very similar in other programs as well. But with my time scrubber at the beginning of this black mat, I'm going to keyframe it at 100%. And what that does is that just tells the program that, hey, at this point in time, the property of this object is 100% opaque. And now say I want the fade out from black to transition 4 seconds in. I can just click up here in this timeline and type in 4 seconds. And that will automatically jump my time scrub to 4 seconds on the dot. And now I'm going to trim this end right to 4 seconds. Click on this again. And at 4 seconds, I'm going to tell this opacity property to be 0%. And the software will automatically interpolate that transition from 100 to 0 in a linear fashion. So if I scrub back here, I hit the play button, it will automatically fade out from black. Now, to show that better, since I had already done that in this clip, I'm just going to move this clip like this so that my own fade from black doesn't show. Play again, and there's the 4 second transition with a black screen. So that's how you would do a quick intro or ending scene, fade out from black or white with the color map. And the last thing I didn't really go over yet for you guys in your case is the day in the life of, to start mixing that in. Works in the exact same way as what I was doing with the animation footage. So if I bring that out and say you're introducing the exterior of your building, and you're going to have to kind of just imagine here, since I don't have an exterior animation shot, but you want to show a person walking through the front lobby, and you've got a clip here that's like front lobby. In the same way, you can just do a hard cut. So, or maybe someone in their living room going up to the window shades. We'll use that as an example. So we'll hard cut from that, hard cut to this, and this is your day in the life. I'm going to scrub through, cut to the end of that scene, and trim my footage all the way down to there. So you might jump between something like this, imagining someone in a similar environment going up to the window or checking out the view outside. And then on audio cue, when it spikes back up, that's a good time to hard cut back to your animation again. So I'm going to copy and paste this and continue on. Hard cut, move, and play to preview that. And then you can just use your own judgment or work with one another as to how you want to plan out your story. So it sounds like you guys are kind of in that phase right now of storyboarding things out. With that, your storyboard is super important because that will help you plan these edits when these edits come. So in a week or so. I just threw a ton at you in like 15-20 minutes. So sorry if it seems like a lot.
Can you throw text at him too, real quick?
Yes, yep. Text. Thank you for the reminder. So with the entry or intro scene and exit scene especially, or maybe transition scenes, you're going to want to add text. You can do that multiple ways, but Premiere makes it really easy with a lot of presets. And so since mine has text in the bottom left, and that can be confusing, I'm just going to get rid of that real quick. And that's still not quite enough. So I'm going to delete that. Okay, so say we wanted to add text here on this scene. With the fade out at the title of my sequence. You're going to want to use the Essential Graphics library built into Premiere. This has a lot of great text presets, and it makes it really easy and convenient to give yourself titles to work with. So there are a ton of options you can kind of explore on your own. There's a basic title, which would just be like a center placed text, or a basic lower third. That's a great one to use as well. So to do that, I'm just going to drag and drop this onto the video timeline as its own video layer. You could also build it directly into that as an effect, but what's great about these is it has built-in animation or transitions for you, so you don't have to manually keyframe your opacity like we did with the solid black color. So I'm going to bring it above black color so that it shows up above the black plate, but this should automatically have an animation. And this one does not actually, but we can manually keyframe the opacity in the lower third if we want to. So to go ahead and do that, same sort of situation. I'm going to select this. Your properties will show up here. And at the beginning of my video for the first few seconds, we're going to do the opposite of what we did with the black color. So select this, keyframe the opacity, but this time we want the opacity to be 0. So you can either click on this and type in your numbers, or there's a little icon that shows up, and if you click and hold your left mouse button, you can scroll from 0 to 100 like this. So I'm going to leave it at 0, and then let's say by 4 seconds, we want this to be at 100% opacity. So I type in 4 here, go to opacity, click and hold with the left mouse button, and scroll all the way to the right. And now that should be animated in the same way as the black colored title. So there's that. And then you can do the same. You can just extend this out for as long as you want the title to exist on the screen. And then in the same way, just keyframe the inverse if you want it to fade back out. Or you can have it another method is just having it disappear with a hard cut. So at the end of this clip, you could just have it completely disappear off the screen when your next clip comes on. But that kind of gets into the weeds, and that could be like one-on-one conversations about your particular project if you want. To edit like the text of it, that also exists in the left-hand properties. So there are drop-downs for other options here. Text your name here. This is where you would change things like the font style. So find one that you like. Probably would not be that. You want to stick to something like Century Gothic or kind of whatever's the latest sans space or trend nowadays. But could do just Davis New for instance. And I mean, it just has a ton of options that you can mess around with here. But to change what is actually typed in there, you can just double click right in the preview, delete, and save. Title of your project, second line, you can either have it there as like a descriptor, or you could just delete it out altogether. But and edit the properties to however you see fit. You can change the position of these things with different properties. I mean, a lot of this kind of stuff with any software you're going to use, it really is at the end of the day plug and play. Like play around with properties, essentially break what you're working with to learn how things function, and then ask questions as you need to. Otherwise, also like tutorial videos and presentations like this, we could sit here for probably 3 days if we wanted to. So yeah, that's just a very quick overview, and I'd be happy to address questions, specific questions, things like that now. If anyone has any.
That's awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Awesome. That's a question. So when you put a video into the sequence, do you preset like the frame speed and the frame size in that sequence, or do you just let the first video that you put in kind of dictate that and not worry about it?
You can edit the original properties of the project. I believe it's under is it project settings or edit? Sorry, I do apologize that some of this stuff I'm much more familiar with After Effects, because that tends to be my default because Premiere is much more for, like, in my opinion, film editing, final color grading, things like that. And After Effects gets into more post production, like masking things, detailed animations, those sort of things. But you should be able to modify the project settings. Is that built into general? It is not.
I can hunt for it. I was just kind of wondering like how important that is, or if it doesn't affect the video clip too much.
Well, the frame rate. So you're gonna want to work in the frame rate and the resolution size of your outputted animations. So in Lumion, if you know you're gonna be wanting to work with 4K, export it at that. Import that as your original base footage, and then the project will be set to that. And then as far as like frames per second, for you guys, stick with 25 or 30. You can render out 60 frames per second, but typically you'd only want to do that for things like slow-mo. So if you wanted to have a scene where someone is like playing soccer, for instance, going to do like a bicycle kick, and you wanted to fake in like a freeze frame where the person in real time is going to kick, but then when they jump in the air, it slows down. Those extra frames, 60 frames per second, will allow you to slow things down but still have the video look smooth. So that would be one of the more important case scenarios for that. But the more frames per second you export out of Lumion or any other renderer, it's going to take your computer longer to render. So that's kind of the only variable there. But yeah.
So when you say you use After Effects, is that kind of what you would suggest we do? Like if you want to change the colors of a video to make them look better between Lumion and what we sample?
You can do this. You can do the same thing here. That's color grading, and so if it's just color grading the overall image, I would definitely advise stay in Premiere, because Premiere tends to run RAM previewing of these videos much more smoothly and quickly than After Effects. After Effects, you're going to find that your computer takes a long time to compute the preview of the video so that you can play it real time. But for that, it's a great question. You can select your footage here, and to color grade, it's going to be built into your effects. So your effects stacks they'll show up on the left here for the properties. But I would go to, let's see, Window and Workspaces, Effects. And this is essentially where your effects will exist. Lumetri is typically where you would go for color grading, at least for our scenario. You can buy better plugins and stuff online, but if I were to just go and type color in here, there's a video effects color correction, and Lumetri color is one of the best ones to use because it's essentially all color and light grading options directly into one effect stack. So if you do that, you search color or Lumetri color, click and drag that directly onto the clip or clips that you want to edit. Drag and drop, and now you'll see it's populated here in my properties with everything else on that clip, and it has everything built into it. So if I drop down basic correction, this is where you get all of your tone mapping, your temperature. So I'll just go through this really briefly. If you want to change your exposure, you can do this all in post. So get your base image looking decent out of your render program, but then this is where you want to start color grading, messing with contrasts. And you can keyframe all these properties too. So it's really nice if you want to fake something in post, like the lights turning on. You can keyframe your exposure going up. You could keyframe your curves. So it has built-in color mapping. If anyone's familiar with Photoshop and levels adjustments, overlay adjustments, all those things, same properties are built into here, but for video. So you can get very detailed with how you manipulate and color grade. But that'd be my response there is stay in this program for Premiere if you're just doing color grading.
Okay, and then my last question is, can you keyframe audio the same way you can fade in a video.
Yep, absolutely. So if you want to fade in the audio with the effects at the beginning or any other sort of application, you'll do that down here in the visual audio graph, and it will also show up here in your properties editor. So if I click on this, it'll switch the properties over to my audio that I've selected, and you can keyframe your levels in decibels. And so typically, regardless of whether you're using Adobe Audition to edit your audio, After Effects, or Premiere here, it'll kind of function in similar ways. But if you want to fade out and absolutely not hear it, that threshold is about like 37, negative 37. Anything higher than that, your ear's likely going to be able to pick up on, especially when you're wearing headphones. So make sure that if you want to go with an audio clip from absolutely no noise to regular listening level, set your first keyframe at 0, or the beginning of your clip, and keyframe that to be like negative 40. And then let's say I'll just use 4 seconds because we've been using a base 4 for the other edits. I want to keyframe that to be 0 decibels because it's just like the normal audio level of this clip. And so see, I did the edits up here with keyframe and moving the scrubbing, but look what that did down here on my visual graph is it shows those keyframes. So this is at the beginning, 0, negative 40 decibels up here. If I move that up to 4 seconds, we're back at 0. And so it gives you a graph you can then like visually play with here too. And it automatically does a linear interpolation between those two properties or positions. So without getting too deep into the weeds, anytime you set a keyframe on any visual property, audio property, 3D animated property, you name it, your program will automatically interpolate, but just know that it's in a linear fashion. And you can always select a keyframe, right click, and give yourself a Bezier curve. And so what that does is typically gives you a handle that you can start to mess with in a curved like fashion to smooth transitions out. So instead of your linear transition hitting a dead point of a keyframe, like sometimes you want to transition more smoothly from point to point, especially when you're editing video and camera movements. So that's one way to automate that process and get more control there. So that's how you would go ahead and keyframe audio.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone else have any other specific questions? Doesn't have to pertain specifically to the software either, but.
So with the audio that you just showed us, Josh, and we wanted to like throw in like an audio clip, like say birds chirping, is that like semi like the same way that we go about it?
Yep.
Changing the decibels and that sort of thing.
The exact same way, yep. So just like in the video layers here, I've stacked the videos. Audio works in the same way, so I'm going to zoom back out. Double click in this area here to hide the visuals, and now you'll see A1, A2, A3, A4. You can add pretty much as many audio levels, video levels as you want or need. But say we do want to add birds chirping, or a general like wind ambient noise is really, really nice. You could grab one of those ambient noises from Artlist. You could go to YouTube, and I often search, let's just say birds chirping ambient noise or ambient noise. And this is a great way to get any sort of audio free from YouTube. You'll notice though, when you do look something up like this, a lot of people like to use ambient sounds to help them sleep. So you'll find a lot of videos like 8 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours. You don't want to try to download those. It takes forever and it's just, you can't edit with them. So on YouTube, when you search something, go to filters, duration under 4 minutes, and that will filter out everything greater than 4 minutes. And then you'll just find the clip that you want. Say, yeah, that's the minute long clip I want. I'll highlight, copy, and I'll go to 4K video downloader, paste link, and again, always be sure to make sure it's in the details says like Creative Commons attribution. Otherwise, if you like create a video or an animation for even for school, it's not technically for profit. So if someone owns this sound and they have like they're a large company and they have algorithms that scour the internet to detect audio that's proprietary to them, they could send you like cease and desist letters and stuff, or saying like, hey, we'll take you to court if you profit from this. So just always be cautious of those sort of things. But I'm going to go ahead and browse, make sure that's saving to the folder that I want it to, of a video, save, and I don't want the video, so I'm going to change the format, extract audio, MP3, hit extract. That'll download. And now I can just drag and drop it into my project browser here. So I'll go back to this. Here it is, drag and drop. And now I'm just going to drag that onto my audio 2 slot. So now in my video, without clipping and editing that out, but it works in the same way as video, if I just hit play, your bird starts to chirp, so. Yep, same way. And then you just select this, come up here, keyframe your audio, and you'll get the graph on here again.
So those audio bottom up, the video top down, right? V2 overlays V1.
Yep. Yep. So your video files will stack upward, and your audio files will stack downward.
Yep.
I think the main difference in how they function is video, of course, when you have two things overlapping, the top one is always going to override the bottom one. So if I go and select this and I hide this layer, that's what's happening beneath it. Whereas with the audio, of course, it's auditory, so it will stack the audio. So you'll hear both audios playing at the same time. The top one will not override the bottom one. So that's like functionally how they would work differently there. But yeah. There any other specific questions? If there's anyone getting into more detailed animation techniques, or where you want to try to combine like green screened effects, things like that, happy to talk to you about that outside of this class as well, outside of the recording. But that might get into more difficult like post-production techniques. You might have to use other software.
Is there, Josh, I don't know if you know, is there somewhere for the university to post video, or like is there a university YouTube channel or something we should be using from College of Architecture? Or?
I don't, to my knowledge, I don't think so. There was talk at one of the all-college meetings that I attended maybe a month ago that they're switching to a new video source platform that acts like a YouTube, but for like academia. But I have not heard anything further from that. So what I will do,
trying to think how we compile all this, and so we don't, the university has a copy of it or whatever they can share out and all that.
So I've been recording and uploading my videos to my own YouTube channel, but it's probably something that I should like talk to David Carley and others about, especially if we're getting into more classes that are digital and being recorded like this.
Yeah, and part of this at the end, we're going to have an exhibit at LinkedIn, and they're going to be showing us, we'll probably compile them all in one anyway, so we can create a loop of all the videos. But
yeah, that'd be awesome. We've also discussed in my class for the end of the semester to showcase student projects. We're thinking something along the lines of potentially doing a website. Websites are relatively cheap and or free to create. And what I would probably do is utilize ArtStation's website creator for my class, and each of us. So I'll just go to. I use ArtStation, and what I imagine to showcase my class at the end of this semester, I think, is something like this, where it comes up. We have a website that people can click a link on, and then each student will have their own web page within the website to upload their animations, their video, descriptions of their project, all that stuff. So, yeah, any ideas that you have as far as how you guys are curating your work, sharing videos, all of that, I'd love to have further conversation about. So,
yeah, maybe you and I can take it offline with David and figure out how to do something bigger.
yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, it'd be nice for every master's student, especially, to have their own site within the university.
Yeah, and I actually found like trying to figure out portfolio at the end of the year or when you're coming up to graduation is always the most stressful thing as a student. It's like I have all this work, I didn't necessarily organize everything all that well, but now I've got to figure out how to curate content that's often like far more dynamic than just can be printed on a 2D portfolio or resume. Like how do you curate that and show that in 2D print? I found that creating a website is almost better. It tends to take even less time. It can integrate video, animation, your text, you name it. And then once you take the time to create your website, it makes just folding that or condensing that down into a printed document just as easy. So anyone who asks me like, how can I stand out with my portfolio? Honestly, my go-to is like develop a website first, make that your digital portfolio, and then if you really need a printed portfolio to hand out to firms, condense that into a InDesign file or something. So.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at the industry, it's gone towards video as a sharing medium versus something like issue in that. Like, it's nice to have both, but like, it's way more. I mean, think about it. All of you look at when you're on Instagram or whatever. It's like Reels and all that kind of stuff is taken over.
Oh yeah.
TikTok, like, it's definitely way more easier to get into something in that format than it is to look at something that's a flat image and text, right? I mean, just think of yourself. Same thing, right?
Yep, absolutely. I believe Adobe has like a portfolio site as well, right? For free.
Oh, they might.
Forgot
that
what
might be
it's called.
included as part of the 360.
Yeah, it'd be like a free version of what I showed you on ArtStation for any of you students that have like an academic email. You could just use Adobe's website builder for free. But I don't remember what it's called right now. Behance maybe might be one of them.
It's called Adobe Portfolio, I think is what it's called. Super easy.
that name seems obvious.
Yep, there we go. Portfolio.adobe.com. Yep, this one. So you'll see a lot of the similar custom templates as like Wix, website builder, ArtStation, etc. But it'll be a lot of like grid based, which is great because it's just like that Instagrammable, scrollable feed style. I mean that's all the rage and has been for a while. So definitely.
Nice. I wonder if we can compile all these for the class on one site like that. That'd be really nice. Just a series of links.
Just have your names.
Yep, exactly. One image, rendering image, then click on it and take you to the project page.
Yep, absolutely. The work's already done. It just needs a little bit of curation. So, is there anything else that I can address? Otherwise, feel free to hit me up. I'll be making my rounds during this next Sunday at our call. So, reach out.
And if you can share this video link with me, then I'll distribute to the class.
Sounds good. Will do.
I really appreciate it. This is awesome. It's good to meet you.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks for having me.